Oh, there it is right here. Let's see which one. Okay, go ahead.
Put it up.
Hi, my name is Oslyn Lewis, and this is Michael Fuller. Come on up, Michael. I guess, thanks. My background actually is in science, but I fell into real estate by accident. I finished science school and I went to design school, and I came out and opened up an art gallery for my friends, and then I got the property got taken away from me, and I got some money, so I started in real estate, and had a bunch of warehouse buildings, and I started renting them to the film industry for making movies, and I started making a lot of money without really trying. And over the years, last 25 years, I've exclusively rented film companies to make movies. Like Pinewood Studio will rent from me for making different movies. A lot of the movie companies will rent from us. I live in Toronto, so Toronto is like the Hollywood North because the films are cheaper to make there, and they have a lot of experienced filmmakers there and a lot of support staff. So this basically organically got growing. And so I looked at the film industry, and there's a lot of problems that was occurring because the film companies would rent from me, and they had to find warehouse spaces, they had to find living accommodations, a lot of different things. So what I did, I sold off a number of the properties, and I bought a 45-acre property and decided to create what I call GeniPaper Studio. And this studio has all the facilities one would need to make a film or content, and I'd like to start showing that. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Yes, okay. So the introduction is we're talking about the value proposition, which means that there's a shortage of content for the OTT, which means over the mobile device, which means that if you have a phone, an iPad, a lot of content has been driven over that device right now. A lot of people is cutting from the cable. So we wanted to create the facilities that would cater towards developing those kind of content, original content for those devices. So this talks about the highlights of the studio, the competitive analysis, and the background. I told you a little bit about it. Okay, go to the next one, please. This is actually the facility. Next one slide, please. And number one is actually in this slide we have all the different areas, and I'm going to let Mike take over from here and continue with it for us, and then I'll come back in. Thanks.
So this is our vision of really a modern 21st century studio built from the ground up. Like Ozzy said, the idea is to bring everything into one area so people don't have to travel, they don't have to worry about where they're putting the crews. I mean, I'm from New York, and anywhere you go in Brooklyn or anywhere, Queens, Manhattan, there's always these vehicles that get rented, and they take up city streets and they block off traffic. Here, when it comes to actually using the studios and the production and everything else, it can all be done in one place. So the idea was, if you look at number one, this is going to be a residential condominium that can also be rented out. The film companies can either rent it, or if they're going to be using the studio space a lot, they can buy it out, and they can keep the stars, the directors, the producers, the talent, basically. Keep them in a level of luxury they'll be used to, because if you're filming for potentially a couple of months at a time, you don't want to keep paying for hotel expenses, you don't want to be renting those little, mobile homes that they keep on site. Now you can have a beautiful facility, and people would like to be there, large enough that if they have their families, they can stay with them as well. These things run anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 square feet. You can combine them for bigger spaces. Number two, this is an office building that essentially is dedicated for pre- and post-production of films. So while you're there, you can do all your pre-production work and all your editing and everything you need to do on site. And these two buildings are hardwired together. So you'll have office space within the residential space. So if you kind of want to work in your home office, it's directly linked up into this office space. So everything could be done on site. And it's all hardwired. So you don't have to worry about losing any of your data over the cloud or storing it. We have computer servers on site. Everything is stored on site. And so there's a level of safety because it's really a local area network as opposed to being exposed to the web. Here we have what would essentially be housing for, kind of cast and crew, the guys who really get everything done. It's not going to be quite as fancy or anything. Could be more like a hostel type setup. But the point is, you don't have to worry about putting people up who are going to be working on your set for, a month or two, possibly up to a year if it's a full feature film. So you have somewhere on site. So everybody's local. You don't have to worry about putting them in motels or dealing with that. Here you have an 80,000 square foot soundstage with 60-foot ceilings, a 20,000 foot soundstage, another 20,000 foot soundstage. Basically, you can just see the layout. We have a parking garage that will also have in it 2 permanent sets of a court and jails, because those are sets that those are type of sets that get used over and over again. So we figure we'll have that already developed and save people money. You have the data center where all the servers are held, and I'll get back to that in a minute because that's a very important feature going forward. We're going to have a million gallon water tank that will allow for the filming of all sorts of underwater scenes. And we'll have that on site, always available, which would be covered over in the winter and bad season months. And we're going to also build a 400-foot long subway tunnel, a model of a subway station, that'll also be permanently there for all the movies and TV shows that use that kind of backdrop. We have the area to do this, so you don't have to build it new every time. It adds to the attractiveness. It'll make people want to come. And then we have an additional over 100,000 square feet of just warehouse space and storage space for all the sets and props and everything that'll be there. So basically, you get the idea that this is a complete environment, a self-enclosed studio for the 21st century, where everything is linked digitally, where everything is linked one to another. As soon as you film it, it's getting stored in the servers. The editors come at night, they work through it. The idea is we're building something new and incredible. The Toronto film industry is just very, very strong, almost too strong. They have more demand than they have space. You can read through our offering memorandum and get some more details, but this is really what I want to talk about. This is the demand that's there. You have Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Apple, Facebook. All these people are spending billions and billions of dollars to create more content that they can deliver. And this is really what's driving us, and I'm sure other people as well. You can look through these stats and just see it's amazing. And Disney, a few months ago, put a bid for Fox. Things are combining because they want the economies of scale. You read just last week how AT&T and Verizon are losing cable customers because people don't want cable. They're cutting the cord. Everything is about streaming. Everything is about creating content and getting it directly to the consumer. And this is where we're going to excel. This just is some of our projections into timing and cost. And this is actually perhaps the most immediate, most interesting. Besides having the 45-acre site, we have an 8-acre site that has existing buildings on it, about 130,000 square foot of existing buildings. As you can see from these pictures, these are large warehouses with ceiling heights from 28 to 40 feet, almost as if they were custom built for a studio. You can see the rendering of what it would like versus what it actually does look like now. This is located just outside downtown Toronto. This is something that we can have up and running within the next 12 and 18 months. We're simply waiting for the current people who are leasing space. They leave, we come in, we fix it up. We're already talking to several major studios who want to come in and just lease the space. We're basically taking an asset that's bringing in maybe $1 million a year in NOI, and we predict income to be north of $5 to $6 million a year NOI. This is why this sector of real estate is so attractive. And we are both real estate people, and Ozzy has had the years and years of the experience within the studio field. So this is basically a two-stage process for us. We're going to immediately be taking over this piece. We're going to fix this up, get it rented out. The value will jump 3- or 4-fold, and then we're going to use that as well as a larger ICO and build the GeniPaper. But this token, and what we're going to do is use tokens to raise the money, will be asset-backed. It's what Bruce has talked about, a number of people have talked about. What separates this from other real estate ICOs is it's not, well, we want to raise 5-10 million, we're going to buy houses or small apartment buildings, we're going to add value, we're going to flip them. No, we actually own or control the assets. We have a plan that will significantly increase the value of these assets. That's really what GeniPaper is about. But as I said to Bruce, but wait, there's more. Because this is just the real estate part of it. The real upside of it, what's really going to make this interesting, is that all this film and content that we're creating is how we're pushing it onto the net. It's how we're getting it to the consumer. And that is through the use of blockchain and smart contracts. We will be able to send the content directly over the top, OTT, to your mobile phone, to your tablet, to your laptop, to any other, to your smart TV directly. And if you do it through this system, every dollar made through that smart contract is immediately and correctly distributed to all of the stakeholders. And that's really what makes it important. And that's the wild card. We don't even know just how big that can grow. We have a lot of interest from major studios, from independent studios who said, we love the idea, we love that we can come down to your place, film this at a reasonable price, and then get it out without spending the $5, $10, $20 million in other marketing. And we don't know how big that'll be. We know what the real estate is worth. We know what we can predict. We know what kind of returns, but we don't know just how big this can get. And that's why we're excited. And as to the real estate, the token that we're going to offer, that will hopefully come to a pre-sale in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll be ready to get out there, is you buy the token, it is secured by the real estate. You have a first lien against the real estate that we own. You're protected. It's like buying a stock or a bond. And you can then use this token to pay to use the facilities, which then also adds value, because then it's kind of like you're now redeeming your token. There'll be less tokens out there. The guys who haven't redeemed their tokens, they're getting value just because there's less of them out there. So there's a lot of upside to this. So we're very excited. And this is going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. We have a lot of interest from studios and investors. And it's just a matter of how we're going to structure and how big we're going to make the initial coin offering in order to get the GeniPaper and ultimately the GeniPaper off the ground. Did you want to add anything else, Ozzy?
Yes.
Do we have any immediate questions while he comes back up? Let me see, was there anything else?
Toronto has the government gives discounts for media-based projects. Ubisoft see 2.3, 2.4 million. Could you get a slice of that?
The truth is there will be availability for that, as well as one other component that I didn't mention, because we haven't mapped it out on there yet, but there will be a whole educational component as well. The hope is, and the plan is, to align with the universities, as well as other studios, to create classroom space, tutorial type space, kind of mini studios where the next generation of filmmakers can jump in and learn, and that'll also create a labor pool that will allow us to draw it. Right, it's a cycle, it's a self-fulfilling cycle, and that will certainly give us the educational credits from Toronto and Ontario and everything else. So we're certainly in a field where it's an incredibly growing, demanding field. They want to see it succeed. A lot of the old studios are being pushed out of the downtown area, and so this is the solution. And by having everything all in one and being able to distribute it in a safe and efficient way, that's going to be, we think it'll be a great deal. And we have one of our advisories is a CPA who has spent 35 years in the royalty business, working with the studios, working with individual entertainers, securing their rights, making sure the rights are protected. And this is who these are the type of advisors. We're picking our advisors and our staff very carefully. It's people who really fit into the mold of what it is we're trying to do and can truly make our company significantly better. It's not just about the money, it's about making it work. We have a very long-term horizon. Real estate is not an overnight play, so it needs to grow correctly. But GeniPaper, that first site, the 130,000 square feet, that's literally tangible. There are buildings there. This is just a matter of retrofitting the buildings and making them work. And so we're very excited about the possibilities. And GeniPaper and the distribution, these are all amazing things that will happen down the line, but this is something that can literally happen right away. And that's why we're so excited to be here, and that's why we're excited to introduce ourselves to you guys into the blockchain and Bitcoin world.
Yes, to that question, there's a tax credit that the government has available when you make a film in Toronto. And there's different incentives available because it's basically Hollywood North. Most of the Academy Award films this year, especially the Shape of Water, was shot in Toronto. So you got the currency is lower, you got the experienced staff, and also the tax credits are there. Another thing that's really unique about what we're doing is that once someone makes the content and it goes onto the data center, there's a bidding, it's an exchange. So Hulu, Netflix, any of the other OTT distributors can bid for it. And when they bid for it, basically the smart contract pays everybody that's a stakeholder that makes a film. If he invested $10 and he's getting 2%, as soon as a dollar comes in, he gets it right away. And also some of the content film, some of the OTT companies and the film companies, like Lion Gates, they distribute some films to the theater because the exhibitors want that to be done, but some of the smaller made films for 3 or 4 million, they want to be able to make it to the OTT and directly get paid on that. And exactly, if my friend here makes a movie about entertainment and theme parks, he can stream that directly to the consumer and gets paid for that, and his money comes in on real time into his pocket, and all the stakeholders get paid for that particular situation also too.
Right, and I just want to point out, it's not just the film and TV. This is something that can work as well for entertainment, whether it's music, whether it's sports. The idea of being able to push the content out directly to the consumer is really something that crosses all forms of media. We could be, kind of like we're streaming this live right now, through a network that's going straight to your laptop or whatever. It's the same idea. Only we're going to be hopefully working with a lot of original content that will allow us to get paid as we're pushing it out there.
And one other question. Some of the companies that will buy the tokens is also film companies because they lock in the point that they can be able to get the content and co-finance some of the content because there's always a gap. Like when a person brings a script and they try to get it produced and they go to be the producer, they sometimes have a big gap. And a lot of the cost there is because of the below the line is because of the fragmentation on the cost. So the film company would buy the token, gets it done, and pays for it. So they'll end up bidding and buying it all at the same time. So their token will be used to get their content back, delivered to them. And it's easier for the companies to bond the film, a lot easier for delivery, and there's not big gaps in between them. Sorry again, so go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm just curious, do you you're building the protocol or you're building the protocol for
We're building everything. We have the real estate, because we're real estate people. We understand real estate. We build buildings, we sell them, we rent them, and we understand that ecosystem. So we're combining the technology and the real estate together to create a whole ecosystem. Did I answer the question correctly, sir? It's just over the top, like you're not going through cable, you're just delivering the content through any device, any mobile device. Like New Lion, which we work with sometimes, during the Mayweather fight, they was 3 million they sold on just your iPhone at $100 a pop, right? So it's a substantial market in that way. Is that what you're asking, sir? Or it's a data center, because most data center right now holds back the data. Like in other words, like Equinox and the big data center, they're pushing the cable companies because the cable companies have been spending a lot of money with them. So the OTT people, the content is delivered slower. So ours is just for OTT. We're not dealing with any cable company. So you get a pure transmission, a pure, quicker streaming. Oh, well, this is the technology that we developed. In 2004, I started a company called Mobi Media. And the Mobi Media was to deliver content to the mobile device with no apps and no downloads. So what I was doing was delivering, playing videos on iPhone before they started using HTML5. And you know, with the internet, everything is stamped date. So if you put my name in, you'll see that. So when I made my money in real estate, I met these bunch of kids in '96, and they wanted to start this thing about technology. So I basically gave them the space and the money, and we started fooling around and developing technology, worked on part of Google search engine, and a whole bunch
22
of
years
technology.
later, you're making it into a commercial thing.
Well, it was just organically growing. So I already had, I was working on that aspect of it, and that's how I got into Bitcoin, because we were at a meeting, and I was doing we were trying to use phones to be encrypted. Like, in other words, I would talk to you, because I was going to China, and I wanted to be encrypted, so we used to use voice over IP, and your phone number would have to be in my phone, and mine and yours, and we had a software, and we could talk to each other without a man in the middle. If the man in the middle comes in, it breaks down. So what happened when the market dropped, a bunch of people got together, and they said, listen, we're trying to develop an encryption software, and for you helping, we only got virtual money. So, we got virtual coin money at that time because we're trying to build a software. If I build a building, I need a real estate, I need a land, I need a bank, I need an architect, I need engineers, I need a quantity survey, I need all those people to build a building. If you build a software, the same thing, except that, you're getting something that doesn't exist yet. And that's how we got involved in that. And what happened, I had this guy from Israel helping me in the encryption, and then one day I was fooling around and I noticed something funny with the code. And then I said, listen, what's going on? He says, oh, well, sorry, I'm from Israel, and the Mossad got to get a backdoor code. So they were trying to make he did. He told me, honestly, because I caught this. He said, that's the rule. And it was good. Like, we were in London, and I said, oh, yeah, okay, now I understand that. And then so that's how I got into encryption. And then, because we were trying to deliver content, and that's basically how I got into the business in the beginning. Because I made money in real estate, and I also took design, and I was always curious about things, and things just flow to the next, So that's how we got started. So we started, like, for example, I started a one-click process for buying online. And then when Amazon was getting the patent, a bunch of us contested it, and they said, the patent says, anybody that's been using the technology before Amazon was using it, we were exempted. So people would come to us to build the technology because we were exempted. And, so there's a lot of different, it's basically an integration and an aggregation of a lot of technology pulled together in order to make it, what we're doing right now. It's a lot of years of working, pulling a lot of technology together in order to make it happen. So, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to solve a problem. Go ahead, sorry.
I had another question. So the guy from the Shark Tank? I forget his name, but he's the balder guy. He's always mean to everybody.
Yeah, he's from Canada, yes.
He was on TV maybe a month ago, and he was talking about something similar to what you guys are doing. And I just wanted to know if you're aware of it and how it compares or what the differences are to what you're doing.
You mean in the sense of streaming?
I only caught a brief glimpse of what he was doing. Are you not familiar with it? Okay. If you're not familiar with it, then it's...
Pardon? Oh, yeah, but the thing is that with our project, if you put the project back up there, the reason that we have that, this is a market research that we've done, because I work with the film companies. And I also have houses in Toronto that I rent to the actors, because they will come and rent space for me to make the movies, but I also have a house. I know their needs. I'm predicting what they're going to ask me before they ask me. So what ended up happening is that I used to have to, they had lived so far away, like when they were doing Hurricane Carter, in Toronto they had to take the Denzel so far away from where the place was, right? And the place was not nice, because in Toronto, most film studios are built in the worst part of the city, because the land was cheap. Like Michael and I toured the studios in New York. They're built in the worst places. That's because the market was old. Now the market is mature, and there's more stars are being made. So we have to build proper facilities for these stars. So what we did the condominiums, because we know that's what they want, because some of the film companies said to us, listen, if you put condominiums, we'll buy 10 off you. So we basically, it was a problem-solving approach than to just throw buildings up, because we ask what do they need, what they're looking for, and then we design accordingly for that. So, you know, sorry, go ahead.
Is this on? Hello? Oh, is this on? Sorry about that. To your point, the truth is there are many ICOs, tokenizations of real estate, and there will be many more. Just like there was crowdfunding and Kickstarter and all these other ways, there'll always be another way to raise money for real estate deals, syndication, debt, equity. What we have is unique in the sense that there's somewhat of a high barrier to entering and knowing the film industry and being able to be successful in that particular niche. We're not trying to, you know, make the best condos or the best office buildings. We're sticking within the niche that we have the years of experience. Like Ozzy said, he's done a lot of research research and personal experience on what they want, what they need going forward. You know, our competition is not really someone who's trying to raise a couple $1 million for a real estate fund through tokenization. There will, like I said, there'll always be someone looking to raise money that way, but that's not what we're trying to do. We have a whole different concept, and we already control the facilities. It's not like we're saying, I want to raise $5–10 million, and here's the type of product I want to spend it on. That's like what everybody has done in the past, like I said, with crowdfunding most recently, and just syndicating real estate deals, or raising, or just hustling around knocking on doors and raising money for equity. That's not what we're doing. We have a specific target, a niche. We have the real estate lined up, and now we're just, rather than go there, when we first started looking at this, truthfully, we thought, oh, we're gonna go to some major players, raise money, buy the buildings, start the cash flow, refinance the GeniPaper, the smaller one, use that money to then move forward with the GeniPaper. We would use the down payment on the condos to actually do a lot of the financing, which we still could do. In Toronto, you're allowed to, use up to 75% of the money that they're going to pay ahead of time to actually use it. Plus, one thing we'll probably do, whether it's with the tokenization or outright, is sell memberships. I'm sure you're all familiar with personal seat licenses like they do in sports stadiums, where you have to buy the right just to actually buy a ticket. It's the same idea for the big players. You have to buy the right to have the right to then jump into almost like the head of the line and reserve the space for yourself. And because there's so much flow, we know there'll be people who will be willing to pay that. This is the way we were originally going to do all our financing, to essentially a more traditional model. But then, as we were integrating the whole thing and talking more about the distribution of it and the technology end of it, we said, you know what? We really should be looking at the token generation and how we could use that going forward. How we would use that to raise the money that would be secured by the real estate, and then they get the bonus of not only being able to use the money to generate income for themselves through any distribution based on the rental that we are charging, but they can use it to actually redeem it. You know, the natural buyer of this would be studios, producers, directors who want to be able to reserve a time slot. And by using the tokens, they can kind of reserve a time slot. And that's really where the uniqueness is. So certainly there's other real estate plays out there, but I don't see those as being a challenge or a direct competitor to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, one other question. And also the film companies pay for the space in advance. So they would, like, when I rent space to them to make a movie, and say they're giving me $10,000 a day for a month, they pay me the $300,000 in advance for the month, and they give me a 50% security deposit. Because when they make a film, like, in other words, they rent for me sometimes for a year, and they pay a whole year's rent in advance because they don't break the set down or do anything like that. So your money's already earned, and that's how the film industry works. If they got a $50 million budget to make a film or a series, that 50 million, they know X amount come on set, X amount is going to be for building, and they'll never rip the set down. They'll stay there, and in the summertime, when they're not there, just sit there, and they still pay for it. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to know a little bit. You're talking a lot about how this is really a service that film studios can use. Have you thought at all about how independent film producers would use the service?
Absolutely.
It is a lot for independent filmmakers, because the idea that independent filmmakers can make the movie and they can go directly to the consumer, and they can also have the different companies bid for it. Like Alibaba approached us because they want to put in, but the problem is if they did that to control, then an independent filmmaker like you don't have a chance to sell it to the number of the different OTT network. Yes, totally. So there's two ways. You can sell it to an OTT distributor, or you can go directly to the consumer. This is why we want to keep the independent film guys to deliver the content and being able to produce it quicker and cheaper in the one-stop facilities. And if the independent film person has a good script and it's well managed, because we'll have a number of different stakeholders working with it like that, they will use some of the coins to fund the film, and then you will get paid on top of that. That's what we would do, and that's the build out is there. So it's like resident. If you come, you have the accommodations, you have everything there, and it's all cost savings. You know, the bottom line, if you lower the cost, then you're going to get better quality on the screen. Because a lot of times when you look at the film budget, you see a lot of stuff doesn't have anything to do with the film. And that's what's killing it. And then if you get your friend next door beside you, Gary, that gives you $20, you know, like when you're making a film, a bunch of friends kick money in, but you never give it back, right? So now on a smart contract, as soon as you make your money, they already get their money back automatically right away. And that's what it is. And accounting, you don't have to sue the distributor, because the distributor gets the film. He has to now market it like crazy. And then next thing you know, you're not going to get any money at all.
So you're not going to zero net everybody out of the royalties, is what you're
No,
saying?
that's right. Everybody gets on the royalties. Everybody gets paid, and it gets paid instantly. Like in other words, you don't have to wait for the accountant to come back with it, because on the smart contract, the accountant sets. So when you make your film, and then you put it into the data center, then there's a sub-smart contract that you have below that says how the stakeholders will get paid, based on how you got the financing and how you made the film, or the,
So you're,
create the content.
you're bringing all the incentives that Toronto has to bear, as well as the facilities, and then marrying that up to the distribution.
Yes.
So how does the consumer actually get involved in your play? I'm just
Because,
curious.
for example, if you made a film, and then it's going to go to the OTT, the consumers, they can deliver the content to the consumer, because they log in, they want the content, they're going to buy it. So the
Sure.
consumer, the content that you will get will have a blockchain attached to it, so you get it to your device. And then-
Right. Do I become a VIP member on the OTT
Well, it depends.
side, or how are you
You
consumerizing it?
can become a VIP member, or a lot of the filmmakers have a
So
number.
you're letting them deal with the consumer community.
Yeah, but also what we do, we try to help them with the consumer, because some people have a lot of following. Like, for example,
Sure.
on YouTube and Vimeo, people got following, but they don't own that content,
Right.
right? You know what I'm saying? And the other side of that, too, there's always branded content. Like, say you made a nice film, and then say Coca-Cola wants to brand that, right? You can push that out. You don't need a
No,
blockchain.
I was curious because when you started talking about these independents being able to tap into your resources for tokens to invest in their projects, I didn't know if you were opening that up to crowdfunding as well, where the consumer could vote for the stuff they want to see
Well,
get made as well.
the consumer can invest in a film via a token. Like, they
Sure.
can buy the token and say, listen, I want to invest in him. So
Okay.
in other words, if
So
you
it's
go,
a full ecosystem.
Yes, exactly. So to say that, like, what's happening right now, you go to your friends and family for $1,000 to put into a film, right? Like, when anybody asks me, give them $1,000, I know I'm not going to make the money back, because it's not well organized. If you look at the cost, because sometimes they spend a lot of money trying to raise the money. But if they come to the platform, it's already there. Someone who already wants to invest in the money will invest the money into the platform on the token. Say, listen, they have the facility. They give it to the management to run, to get everything together. So then he'll deliver. And if he's short, we come in and we make sure the content is finished, because that's where the bond goes, to make sure the content is finished. And at that particular point, it'll be easier to put the content out.
And the truth is, if we end up through the tokens, we end up investing. For every dollar that comes through, instead of making a couple of pennies, maybe making 10 or 12 cents. Our
Right.
return will be commensurate with how much we as a studio, just like any other studio that would invest in something, the more we put in, you get a guy with a great script, a great everything, but he just can't raise the money. We're like, we believe in you. Our panel agree. We'll put up the money. Well, then we're going to get more through the smart contract on the back end.
Right.
But
You're
this
going to get recoup plus the
because the thing is that
But I'd argue more with you about the model, but it's what Convergence is using, so it's be counterproductive. We're just doing it for video games,
Right.
and we don't have to build buildings because
Right, and the truth
But
is,
even
truth
video
is,
do them
games,
all over
like
the
in other words,
yeah,
a lot,
same model.
I've rented space for companies to come to make video games. That's
Sure.
and they lose a lower ceiling. You see, so I would put them in a lower building, and they'll come in for like 8 months, and they would make the games, and it's amazing. And they pay really good money because I didn't realize I got as much money from the game designers than I got from the major film studios.
Right.
'Cause you
Well,
see what
and at least from my experience in Canada, they move all their execs along with it because
Exactly.
the
So where does-
government pays for those.
which
games.
is why you need all the housing that
Yeah.
we're providing.
You need housing and they'll stay. So what ended up happening? Even some of the film companies said that they will buy the accommodation. Even some of the actors that we know said that they will buy and they will sit on it. And when they're not there, we manage it and lease it out. So what I
Right.
say to them,
Just like a timeshare.
yeah. So what I say to them, if you buy it,
You're a real estate guy, I can tell.
we're real estate because that's
Yeah.
what we are.
Yeah, no, I got it. So I
No secret.
thank you very much because I
You
think
got another question there? Do you
Well,
mind,
we've
or-
got some time carved out
Okay,
for
so you can
tomorrow.
meet us at the bar.
There you go.
You know what the problem is?
We should be so lucky.
It's the unions. See, when I have a building like that, I can go in and build a set before the company arrives, and I'm not paying $80 an hour to Ayatsi or neighbor. You see, because I found that out because I had the warehouses already, and I had already designed, I already had buildings, walls and everything set up into it, and they come in and they rented it that much. When they bring the union, a day to strike, like you bring the union in to paint at the very end. But if you don't have, like this is my building, I can turn around, build the sets the way I want them. Oh yeah, when they do an external city, but I forgot to tell you, we got a thing called a wet screen where they can basically go and shoot the street and come back and shoot it and set up the set and shoot the set right there. It's amazing. There's a doctor from Holland was using it for medical devices, for medical treatment, and the two people are from different locations and they sit and they, on the screen they look like they're in the same room. I mean, the technology is incredible. At CES this last year, Ford built a village, and I wish I could show it to you. All out of LED screens, it was pieced together as if it's like that. You couldn't even, it's amazing. And the people were in front of it, they were jumping, dancing, and the cars were going in the back, and they swear to God the car was going back. The technology today is incredible as far as anything is concerned. Like when you go to New York, like he knows, he deals with a lot of the film studios in New York, which I went through to see some of them. And I mean, you know, there's some things you can't do. Like I've had a client, I did a deal where they wanted to shoot a movie in a restaurant, so I had to look at the guy's daily income that he made, and he was making $35,000 a day. They needed it for I think 20 days. It was a $700,000 deal. And being in the film industry, I know the guy in the restaurant, so I said, listen, you know, what are you going to do? You need to renovate the restaurant. Why don't you close it down for a couple of weeks? And I can help you out. I can help you with the restaurant. So I got the film companies to come in and shoot, and I gave him I took $100,000 and renovate the restaurant for him. He was happy I did that because he didn't have that money. And I did it in the low times, you know? So sometimes you can make deals and you can do things that is more, you know, easier for the film companies to get
I got a
things
restaurant. No.
Sorry.
Well, thank you very much. I
Sorry.
appreciate it. And I think this is the kind of project that, you know, needs this kind of stage.
It's not easy to replicate this in a lot of locations because land price is very, very expensive. It took me almost 20 years to basically have in different studios in different places. And downtown Toronto, the real estate is growing like crazy. And I had to sell off a piece of land to get this 35, 45 acres there to make it work. And I got to be near highways. I got to I have all the utilities have to be there. You have to have power. It's all kinds of things, you know. So the same things you go through as a real estate developer by getting the land, doing the environmentals, designing, rezoning, and doing all that stuff. So it's you know, it's the same thing. Thanks. I hope I didn't overtalk.
Round of applause. No, you're great. Thank you. Never want to cut questions off.